end of the day that, I think this realization that you get a choice in what's happening with your life. And as soon as you take that full responsibility and you choose to kind of tweak the way you look at things, that's what I call mindset ninja. Just look at it slightly differently, then things become so much more approachable.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of CEO Frequency. This is going to be an absolutely incredible episode. I'm so excited to have Mandy McAllister here with me, who is involved with GoBundance Women, which is absolutely incredible. Such an exciting organization. And she has a ton of experience in so many areas of business and life. She's a multifamily real estate investor. She is a mindset ninja, self proclaimed. I love that term. Definitely going to have to steal it, and just a connector of humans. She spent the bulk of her career in medical device sales, chasing cases and commission checks, and then she left her W-2 to lean on financial independence that she had already built through real estate investing. So she was very smart with her money, which we love. We obviously all want to be intelligent with the money we're making in our businesses. So she's an expert in all of that. She's CEO of GoBundance Women, which is a tribe of healthy, wealthy, generous women who are choosing to lead epic lives. So Mandy, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate you taking the time with us and so excited to dive into all of the topics with you. Why don't you just tell
Oh,
us your story in your own words, how you got to where you are now?
awesome. Allie, thank you for the chance to be with you today. I'm this is totally my jam. We vibe so much on what your mission is. So thanks for the chance to support it. I mean, I grew up in a farm kid, as a farm kid in a small town in central Illinois who just had just enough audacity to ask why not me, right? Like I wanted to play Division 1 volleyball in high school, but nobody had ever really done it out of my high school. But I asked like, well, no, they need players too. Why can't one of them be me? And it was a quick lesson in figuring out that if you want something, you just kind of figure out the path backwards to go get the thing you want. And that kind of has fueled a lot of, what some people might think are ridiculous pursuits that I've gone after here. And I've had a lot of fun along the way, just kind of failing forward and feeding my ADD. You mentioned the wide variety of things that I've had an opportunity to do, and it's really just what feels awesome next. What is the thing that has my curiosity to a point that I want to go super deep into it? And I've been very lucky to have leaned into real estate investing, specifically small apartment buildings, which I would argue is the fastest path to kind of financial stability. And I've gotten to, lean into other cool stuff because I kind of had a path to have the money piece figured out in a way.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. And it's amazing how it's really true. Like money can't buy happiness, but money can set you up for such an amazing life, right? It can buy
Mhm.
you the things that create the experiences you want. And like you said, once you had the money piece figured out, you had the financial security, you had that kind of foundation built, you were able to pursue whatever it is that you wanted to try and do and create. So that's a really important message. And I'm curious, you said early in life you had the audacity to say, why not me, right? Like why can't I just do whatever it is that I envision for myself? And so how did that start for you? What was the first step in creating this amazing life that you've built, and what was like the priority at that time? Like what did you see as being kind of that first step?
I guess when I was late teens, that chasing a volleyball scholarship, because I wasn't supposed to have, like, I'm 5'9", which is tall ish, but I had really good grades. And I realized that if I reach out to the coaches, they're going to come watch me, and that meant that 88 Division 1 teams were looking at me. And it ended up that I ripped my ACL my junior year of high school. So 88 went to 4 real quick. But and story is the lesson that I got from that was if I just line myself up to go after the thing and connect with the people. Because end of day, no matter what thing you want to do, it's one connection with one person. When I wanted to get into medical device sales, I couldn't tell you how many people told me, "Oh, you can't do that. You." I ended up with a business degree instead of a science degree. I switched kind of midstream in undergrad, and I mean, so many people told me I couldn't get into medical device sales. Well, why not? I just need to impress the one person. So I followed the kind of the perfect little girl, the right degrees, the right jobs, all of that stuff. And then, early 30s, middle 30s, I realized like, wait, I have a choice in this. I've done all the things than I'm supposed to have done. I had the big house, I had the job, and I was winning the top awards at these big companies, and like it was really cool feather in my cap, but I wasn't fulfilled in the way that I wanted to be. So I zoomed out and looked at the stuff that was actually important, probably after a panic attack or two. But end of the day, that, I think this realization that you get a choice in what's happening with your life. And as soon as you take that full responsibility and you choose to kind of tweak the way you look at things, that's what I call mindset ninja. Just look at it slightly differently, then things become so much more approachable.
Right, right. And you can realize that anything's possible, right? With just a decision or the right connection. It's like, who do I need to talk to? Where do I need to go? What rooms do I need to put myself in to
Mm-hmm.
reach that next step, reach that next level of the vision that I have for myself? And it's so true. I mean, so many of us, it's easy to get stuck in what we think we're supposed to do, what we think,
Mm-hmm.
what we think from our society, our upbringing, our community, what people tell us we're supposed to do. And when we have that realization of like, actually, wait a minute, I'm in control here. This is my life. I'm in the driver's seat. Like, where am I going to turn next? That's such a powerful shift.
And it's at that point that it becomes both like kind of overwhelming, that, oh my God, I'm the one in charge and now I have to pick, right? And freeing all at the same time, right? Because you don't need to recreate somebody's script in for whatever reason. So I mean, I happened to lean into this real estate investing stuff because I've, met some really strong lady landlords in my early days, renting apartments. And it seemed like that was the path that I want to figure out money once. I don't want to have to be the person who goes to a job every single day for the rest of my life and ends up like, the people who were in these jobs, who had the biggest jobs at the companies I worked for. I guess I was lucky that I looked at them and realized, wait, I don't want to do that. I don't want that life. So I need to chase something different. So I think the opportunity to take that responsibility was really a watershed moment in my life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, 100%. What I'm seeing in you is a really powerful set of, I guess you could call them core values or pillars, right? Things that you've pursued. I mean, obviously, very skilled in sales, right? Being able to sell, being able to market because of medical device sales. You've got wealth building, right? Creating real wealth through real estate investing and basically making your money work for you. So not just making the money through sales, but
Mm-hmm.
also making the money then work for you through your investments. And above and beyond that, taking those skills, those two skills, and teaching other people and showing other people the way through community and connection. So that's
Mm-hmm.
a really nice flow of skills and I guess priorities that I see in your life. And I'm curious, starting with the sales and then moving into investing, what is the mechanics there? Like what, I guess, inspired you at a certain point to say, okay, I want to figure out money once. And how did you go about that? How did you say, okay, where do I even start with making money
Mm-hmm.
work for me?
So I think that you're given two arms for a reason. I say this a lot. You get one to pull yourself up, but one to pull other people up with you. And if you're not doing both of them, then you're not really going to be moving towards full fulfillment, right? I realized when I was 19 years old that I wanted to invest in real estate, but because I was too scared to not be perfect. Because I was the perfect athlete, I was the perfect, student, and I did all the right things, right? That I didn't do anything with that until I was in my mid 30s and kind of had this watershed moment. And it just so happens my son was born at that same time. So it became real. Like you get one go round in this life. Like this is not a dress rehearsal. So it all kind of hit all at once. Well, I had done all of the consumption of all of the learning, right? Like I had listened to every podcast. I had gone to events. I had, done all of the learning I could possibly do, but I wasn't putting it to work, right? That one inconvenient truth is that you don't actually learn anything until you put it into action, right? And you're just entertaining yourself if you're not doing stuff with the things that you've learned. That is a very inconvenient truth. So if anybody feels stuck in analysis paralysis of things, there's actually a book that in GoBundance Women, it's been all the rage for a little while. It's called The Psychology of Money. And my primary takeaway of that book was you don't have to be perfect. right? Like, especially as women who are high performers, you're probably a high performing girl, and you probably needed to be perfect to consider yourself high performing, right? So you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be reasonable enough. And if I can just be reasonable enough in my choices and mitigate whatever downside risk I can put my finger on, I'm going to do a really great job making that money grow for me. Also understanding that I kind of put money earning in two different buckets. There's money that you can earn one time. So if you work a job and you exchange your time for your hours for money, you can only do that once. If you flip a house, you can only sell that house once. That is one-time money. Make sense? Or there's this way to set something up that's going to pay you a residual, an annuity every month forever. And my path to that has been these small apartment buildings. So if you can earn that one-time money to put it into something that's going to earn you forever money, then as soon as you've done that math on how much you need to feel like you have money figured out in a way, then that is when you can start to lean into really cool choices. And actually, something that I'll make sure that you get is a calculator that I made to help me figure out what I needed to be able to chase my dreams. Because there's so much power in putting truth to the problem. Can you figure out that math problem of where you need to get to so that you can feel that level of freedom?
Absolutely, 100%. And I love that you have a calculator for it. I'm obsessed. You know that I'm obsessed with systems and data and
Yeah,
structure and
yeah,
all of that. So you just read my mind. And it's true. I think people think they need so much more than they actually do. Like, I
Mhm.
think that, you don't actually need so much money to be able to start with real estate investing. You don't need to have a six-figure salary. You don't need to have a seven-figure business. Like, you need to look at exactly what is necessary to start that chain reaction.
Mhm.
What's that first domino, right? That's
Yeah,
gonna knock all the rest of them down. And it's just one domino. It's a small
right.
domino.
And a thing I say to people who are trying to get from 0 to 1, because I was lucky. I had a high paying job and I saved my face off, right? So I had more savings than most to be able to pursue this. But one thing I say to people who are starting from square one is think about where you live,
Yeah.
right? If you are, a young buck, you can buy a fourplex for 3.5% down on an FHA loan and rent out the other three. And then if your situation in life changes and you need to move out in a year, you can keep all four as rentals,
Right.
right? So there's always a way to start with where you live or live in a place that is undervalued and fix it up. And then if you live in it for 2 out of 5 years, then whatever you sell, if you sell for $250,000 more than you paid, you keep all of that money tax free. That makes your first domino, the first big snowball push, go down the hill.
100%. Yep, exactly. And there's all these little hacks, these little, I mean, they almost seem like loopholes in a sense, like the fact that 2 out of 5 years, no capital gains tax, like brilliant. Most people don't know that. And the reality is, most people don't know this because nobody's teaching it. And what I love about you is you're actually showing people how to do this. You're actually telling people, I know that you said you have a whole course on real estate investing because you're going to get asked all the time. Obviously, you're very successful with it. And what comes with success is more people wanting a piece of the pie, wanting to know how you did it. So, what's brilliant about you is, like you said, you've got that other arm pulling people up with you, bringing people along. And that's just so inspiring to me.
Oh, thank you for that. I still just, I go back to that. I'm just some farm kid. I'm just some kid who asked the right questions and met people and was curious enough to like take a chance at some point. And if it's possible for me, like I'm not the sharpest, knife in the drawer. I'm good at asking questions and I am a pretty smart human, but I'm not the smartest by any means. If I can do it, I know so many other people can too. So, just work through the formula and take those steps and you will get results.
Right, right. Absolutely. Yeah. And there is a formula. So I'm curious, to dig a little deeper into, your story. If you can
Mhm.
tell us the story, your first purchase, your first investment, like what did that look like? What was your snowball? What was your first domino? And how did you knock those first two dominoes down in your own life?
Sure. So I was living in Chicago and I was so cool in my 20s. I always tell my kids, like, I used to be so cool, guys. I was so cool. Well, I wanted to live in a really cool place. Like I wanted to live in the West Loop. That was like the neat place to live. So I bought a condo for way more money than I should have paid. So I didn't take my own advice. That I wish, I don't have a lot of regrets in my life. This is one of them. I wish I would have bought a fourplex and house hack. So that's why I tell everybody I can get a hold of to please buy a fourplex for yourself if you're younger, or help your kids with it if you're not, right? So I didn't end up buying anything for express purpose of investment until I was about 35, 36 years old, roughly 35, let's say. So it ended up being a fourplex in a college town. So I realized, like, wait, people are going to continue to go to college, right? So I wanted it to be close-ish to me. I just figured out how to back into the problem. So if I live in Chicago and I want to buy something in a college town, that means Illinois State, that means Northern Illinois, that means Eastern, that means University of Illinois. Big 10 schools, as soon as I researched that, those are places that institutional investors invest in because they're really big schools, right? So that was beyond the amount of money that I could spend. So I've narrowed it down to these other three. Well, Eastern had a campus that was losing students, so that population was decreasing. That didn't make sense to me. Illinois State at that time tore down two really big dorms. And they had the only state school that was growing in terms of population year over year for the past 3 years. So it's like that now it feels obvious. Now it feels that for the foreseeable future, kids will want to rent this place that I'm renting. So I found a fourplex that was, they were renting it out unfurnished, but I realized that most kids want to rent it furnished, right? So I furnished it. I found a property manager who was fantastic in that area. And I plugged it into their systems. So then instead of getting $400 rent a month, I had it at its the highest and best use. So I was getting up to $850 a month instead of $400. And then end of day, this thing was cash flowing like $1,200 a month. So as soon as I got into this first one, and I was so worried that oh my gosh, I'm putting $40,000 into something and I'm going to be homeless and penniless and I'm going to live under a bridge and it's not going to work and I'm going to die. And then as soon as I proved it to myself, like, wait, my math did math. It worked in the way that I anticipated because I did the work to make sure that the things that I assumed were going to be true. And they ended up being really close to true. And as soon as I didn't die and I was actually making $1,200 a month, I realized I wanted to do it again. And that's kind of when I got bitten by the bug.
Bitten by the bug. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah. And of course, there's always going to be that panic in that first step, right? And especially,
Mhm.
I love that earlier you were touching on the prevalence of perfectionism, especially in women. Like, as high performers, we were always high performers. We were always high
Mhm.
achievers. We were the ones who were literally called overachievers by our friends in school because we annoyed everybody with our overachieverness. And we become perfectionists, right? So we think we have to do everything perfectly right. What I love about that story is, like, yeah, you were smart. Yeah, you did your research. You figured out what campus is going downhill, the other one's blowing up, right? And it's got this huge opportunity for housing. So you picked the right path. You did your homework. You did the research. But even in that moment of panic, you just stuck it out, saw what happened, and then you're like, wait, okay, this worked.
Mhm.
Great. And you don't learn until you do it. You can't prove the concept to yourself until you do it. So until then, it's an unknown. It's an unknown quantity. You're going to be scared of it. You're going to be terrified. You're going to lose all your money and live under a bridge, as you said. But then you prove it to yourself. And look at what you've
Mhm.
built ever since then.
That is what self-confidence is, in my opinion. Your ability to trust yourself.
Mhm.
And trusting your judgment is something that I think is one of the hardest things to getting over analysis paralysis, because you can do all of the things, but you still don't think you can trust you. Right? So how do you figure out how to trust you? My favorite way is to walk before you run. Like, I bought a fourplex before I bought the 53, before I bought the 104, because I needed to learn to trust myself and the assumptions that I was putting into these math equations, because that's all it is.
Mhm.
To figure out how much money something's going to make, it's just a math equation with really good information put into that equation.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So it's actually very simple. I mean, everybody hates math in high school, right? But then you figure out math can work for you and make you money. So
Right.
turn it around.
It's so much more fun when it makes you money. That's what I tell the kids. Like, okay, I understand that sentence graphing thing you do. You're never going to use that as a grown up, but the math, that's going to make you money.
Yep, exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about those next few dominoes. How did you scale it
Mhm.
from that first fourplex into the real estate empire you have today?
Oh, Empire. I like the sound of that. I immediately went and did a 6 unit. And I had a that cool condo that I lived in. I had a ton of equity in it, but I wasn't going to sell it. I was renting that out to someone, a friend of a friend. And I was able to convince a bank to put a second lien on that condo so that I could use that delta, that equity, as a down payment on a sixplex. I actually still have a 4% loan. I still own that sixplex today and have done some interesting things. We're doing midterm rentals out of half of them, which has been really cool and really lucrative. And I have a team that manages that in a cool way. But as soon as I did that sixplex, I started learning about the loan products that are available in multifamily. Well, if you're going to buy a fourplex or smaller, you can get a normal loan, just a normal Fannie Freddie loan like you buying a house. It's the same loan up to a fourplex. And if you're going to buy something that's $1 million loan balance or more, and you have the net worth and you have the liquidity, and there's some other more than we can go over right now, but there's a number of things that you need to have qualify for. But it's a loan that is, again, really great rates. It's terms that are 30 years. I've gotten up to a 15-year term on this loan at the 30-year amortization, and it's non-recourse. So basically, I'm not personally liable for these much larger loans because I've gotten these agency debt loans. Well, there's this kind of middle ground that it feels like a black hole because you can't get the good small loan, you can't get the good big loan, so you're in this black hole. That's when I decided I got to pay my attention to getting into these better loans because my master's is economics. This idea of the loan itself is really, an asset unto itself. And when we were at rates at 3% and lower, it felt very obvious to me that in 10 years, we're not going to be at 3% anymore. I didn't know when. My crystal ball is broken, but I knew that wasn't possible forever. So how do I get as many loans at this rate as possible? And that's when I got into partnerships and went after that 53, subsequently a 47, and then that 104.
Wow. Boom. Amazing. Amazing. So it just kind of snowballed from there. And at this point, I mean, what would you say, obviously, given the changes in the economy and the real estate market,
Mhm.
what would you say is the biggest thing for you now? Like in terms of real estate investing, do you have more targets? Do you have a plan for the next 5 to 10 years? How have things changed in the way that you look at these opportunities?
I love it. That is such a hot topic for discussion right now. There aren't as many doable deals right now. And with interest rates changing, it becomes even harder, right? So rather than beat my head against a wall, I've again chosen to zoom out. And this idea of, that one-time money activity, that engine for cash flow, you've got to have some investable money to really take advantage of setting up these forever money streams, right? So if I can't go after the forever money streams of apartment buildings with the same fervor that I had 5 years ago, then I need to pay attention to my engine for cash flow to feed this apartment building habit that I've built, right? So one thing that's kind of been all the rage in GoBundance Women is, you can buy a tremendous cash flow if you buy a business. It's a different commitment in terms of the management of things. But looking at that, I know I speak commercial real estate. I know that I know that I can build some systems to support stuff. I knew I wanted something with as few employees as possible, so that I settled on car wash or laundromat. And I ended up looking at the places that were near me because I wanted proximity to my home. And I ended up finding a car wash that worked. And I was able to buy it with a real estate loan associated with it. So I got that 30-year amortization. I got, great terms, and it's a much heavier cash flow. It's a lot more to know. I know a lot more about pumps and soaps than I ever thought possible. So it's not all, fairy tales and lollipops, but it does bring in tremendously more cash flow per the dollars that I have in it than the real estate stuff. So to answer your question in a more succinct fashion, instead of chasing the thing that's not working, that forever money, which is always going to be my end game, I've chased after something that will be an engine for cash flow in the short term.
Interesting. Makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. And what I've seen on the just in the general online space lately is a big push towards buying businesses instead of starting businesses. Do you follow Cody Sanchez?
She's a friend. She's going to be at my event in a couple of months.
Nice.
Also, have you read the book Buy Then Build? I think this is the Bible
Really?
of yes, Walker Dybel. I've got one behind me. Walker Dybel wrote this. I think it's the most succinct, like incredible path to buying businesses and then making them better. You should check that out.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to. Yeah. And what I see you're saying so much is like there's a generation that is retiring. They
Hmm.
built these businesses, they work, they cash flow, they're relatively systemized, relatively, automated for whoever wants to own it. They can be made better, they can be made more
Hmm.
scalable, and they need more people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s to come in and say, I'll take this over for you. Right. So I think there is a huge opportunity there right now, especially with what she likes to call boring businesses, right?
Yep.
Car washes, laundromats,
Hmm.
restaurants, farms, like the basic stuff. I even saw a video she did recently on garbage collection, right? A garbage collection business
Yeah.
taken over and cash flows like crazy.
Yeah, end of the day, that is something that there is a lot more engagement to be able to keep those cash flows afloat. It can go a lot more wrong, a lot faster, but it does bring in a lot more cash flow if you are good at those things. So the way that another thing that I've learned from GoBundance, we do these calls of people who've made their net worth from the 7 figures that's required at least $1 million to become a member up to the 8 figure, 9 figure point, right? So what got you here won't get you there sometimes. And I noticed this pattern time and time again that the people who made it to like maybe $10 million, like I'm not about to say that that's not a freak ton of money, but like you can maybe get there with real estate, you know,
Mhm.
but it's a slower grind. You make that money in the wait rather than in the active businessing of the business, right?
Right.
Well, the people who made it to the 100 million, 200 million net worth, they always had a business interest,
Yeah.
right? And if you look at the breakout of what people's net worths are comprised of, the higher you go, like the billionaires, they're always uh, very heavy in whatever their business interest is. So how do I, as the person who's not the smartest one in the room, get informed by the people who are? And that is why I want at least some exposure to a business, and that's why the car wash.
Nice. Nice. Really, really cool. Makes a lot of sense. And obviously now you also have GoBundance Women, which is
Yeah.
in its own right. It's a community, but I'd love to shift gears into that and what you're doing there in terms of obviously how you're building it, how you're growing it, how you're creating really a community driven online business, mostly online. I know you don't do a lot of in-person stuff as well, but how you're building that and also what you're learning through the process about business or about just, what women are doing in the
Yeah, I think I originally joined GoBundance Women as a member because as soon as I found out there was a women's division, I wanted to be next to other girls who, it's a very masculine energy to show up and build a business or to negotiate and be assertive, right? Like that's a masculine energy. But I want to remember to be a girl in my romantic relationship. And I want to be around other people who want this really incredible full life. Right. And that is why I joined as a member, because yes, it's about the financial freedom, but it's about so much more than that. It's, are you connected in relationships? Are you giving back? Are you doing things to keep your body healthy? And that, immediately I joined. And then I was able to buy my way out of my W-2 in 2021 because I met that floor of income that I needed to see in my forever money bucket. So I was able to not have, I had a ton of space in terms of being able to dive into whatever was next. And at that point, the guys who started the men's division realized that this would be even cooler if it could be for women by women, this division. And I had this opportunity to step in and serve as leader. So that has been so tremendous. In terms of, systems and, it all goes back to the connection. The same lesson that I learned when I was 17 years old trying to weasel my way into a Division I scholarship, that I just want the one connection. The how do I make people feel more connected to get the introduction that will change the ball game for them. The reason that you subscribe to a country club or a group like GoBundance is so that you have an opportunity to be around people, A, doing what you're doing, and B, doing bigger things than you're doing. Because in my opinion, one of the most annoying things about the human psyche is that lots of times you don't believe something can happen until you see it happen. And you also don't, especially as a perfect little girl, you don't believe something can happen unless you see somebody who looks like you who's made that happen, right? So a chance to be around these people, that is what normal looks like. Normal for me is women building multi-million-dollar businesses, having incredibly connected relationships, and getting into the best health of their life. So the chance to help these women make their dreams come true is the thing that drives me.
Mhm. Absolutely. Makes a ton of sense. And it's so cool that you went from seeing the opportunity to connect with like-minded women to saying, wait a minute, I can lead this, I can lead this charge. I want to bring other people into this world and support them. So I love that transition that you made from really a member of GoBundance Women to the leader of GoBundance Women.
It wasn't without it's like, are you serious? Like you want the farm kid to do that? But when I can focus on that, I'm helping these women make their own dreams come true, and I'm just making little tweaks. I'm just setting up some events or saying that this call should happen because we'll be able to do X, Y, and Z, recommending books, those types of things. It's all about them. It has nothing to do with me. And that is the coolest thing about it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Makes a ton of sense. It's a community, it's a collective. I mean, tell me a little bit more, what is it you guys do? I'm sure our listeners are really curious. Most of them are women CEOs building 7, 8, 9-figure businesses. They're going to want to know about what they can do with GoBundance.
Right. Well, you are us, right? Because it feels lonely when you're building a business, like having gone from W-2 to self-employed, this idea of if I had a problem back then, I would call one of 100 people who might have a similar problem. Well, I don't really have that if I'm, out here just fighting the fight on my own, right? So this chance to just come together to figure out the things that you need next to make your business grow, to make your relationships better, whatever the thing is that you want to work on. You talked about our moniker, we are the tribe of healthy, wealthy, generous women who choose to lead epic lives. One of the things that we culturally do is this master abundance playbook. It's like a goal setting thing that, you got to look, where are you now and where do you want to be? Because I would argue that most people spend more time planning Thanksgiving dinner than they do planning their own damn lives. Right? So, how do I culturally peer pressure you into looking at your life to decide, are you going on as many adventures as you want to go on? How is your health? Does it look like what you want it to? Are you as connected as you want to be to your kids? So, what is the thing that you could pay more attention to make life feel more full? Because I'll talk from my own experience. I realized, wait, my head's been down building businesses and trying to make family awesome. And I haven't been on a damn adventure in a very long time. So we bought an RV and we went on some really cool adventures with the kids. And now those are memories that exist solely because I did this exercise on a quarterly basis. So that is a really big piece of what we do. We also have in-person events where we have big keynote speakers. You mentioned Cody. She's going to be at our event in October. We've had Sharon Lecter. We've had uh, tons of really incredible speakers come. And then we do what we call micro tribes. So they're individual Zoom room groups that if you are a CEO and you want to talk with other CEOs about your problems, or if you are getting onto EOS and you want to talk about other people who are doing that, I know that's a super hot topic for our business owning women, or multifamily, or whatever the thing is. There's a place to discuss those things. And, we just keep all that organized and in front of the women so that they can squeeze the juice out of whatever they want to squeeze.
Wow. Really, really amazing. The accountability, the support, the community, the networking. I'm sure that the people in GoBundance Women are seeing incredible changes in their businesses and their lives. I mean, you just spoke from your own personal experience, but it sounds like it's so powerful.
It's been so neat. Like one of the questions I love to ask of our members is, what is an introduction that would change the ball game for you? Because, if we are this web of interconnected people, that someone I know or a friend of a friend might be able to put you in touch with the person who would change the ball game for you. So I'll give you an example quickly. One of my faves, her name is Vicky Yang. She makes swag. So she makes like the cool backpacks and pens. And if you, Eight Kings, I'll give her a shout out. If you need swag, she's your girl, right? So I asked her, like, what would change the ball game for you? And she realized that if she meets someone who organizes big events, then she would be able to work with them to provide all that swag for those big events. At the same time, we were standing next to a woman who's like, she works in AI. So the hackathons that happen where she's the only girl when she's there, those are huge events. right? She is BFFs with the girl who puts on all the hackathons on the West Coast. So we put them in touch, and her business, Vicky's business, exploded.
Yeah.
So it really is, can you make an ask that will help people help you? And we kind of ask hard questions to help you get there.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I'm sold. Sounds absolutely.
We'll see you in October, Allie.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be there. Send me the
Awesome.
details.
Very cool. You would love it. It really is really neat.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. So really, really cool. So I guess tell us like where are you headed next? Like what's your next big adventure or your next big mountain to climb in life and business and your investing portfolio? Like what is it for you?
I have been on this path of simplifying because I do have this, entrepreneurial ADD issue that wreaks havoc on so many of us. I'm really working to identify, what are those engines for cash flow, and then where should I be seeking additional forever money investments? And all the while, how do I have a level of impact that feels really fulfilling? So one of the things I'm doing right now is I get to be volleyball coach to my bonus daughter. So like I'm giving back in that way. Another thing that I've done is, so many people ask to pick my brain on, buying apartments, and I can't possibly help everybody one-on-one. So what I did is I just recorded a bunch of stuff and I rolled it up into a course that I'm actually working with someone who helped Cody launch her stuff. To be able to roll that out so that it's an affordable way to learn the stuff you need to learn, to ask the questions you need to ask, to get focused enough to find something that's going to help you get there. So the next thing on the docket is first volleyball, second launch of the course.
Amazing. Amazing. That sounds so cool. Well, we'll have to get the link to that because
Yeah.
we're going to want to put that in the show notes. Tell us how people can find you and, find your course, find GoBundance, find you on the internet and social media.
Sure. Everything that I'm doing, all the diverse stuff that I get interested in, we record stuff on mandymcallister.com, MandyMcAllister.com. There'll be links there for GoBundance Women. Actually, I'll make sure that you get a link to this free webinar thing I did that kind of talks about, the first step you need to take in multifamily, which also includes that calculator that helped me make decisions on where I needed to go. So that would be an excellent place for everybody to start.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, we'll put all of that in the show notes. I'm sure everyone's going to love this. So cool. So many facets to your beingness. It's incredible. It's amazing.
Honestly, it's what feels awesome. Have you read the Surrender Experiment by
Yeah.
chance? That has informed my life.
Yeah.
Like what feels awesome next, and try to just really prune out the stuff that doesn't.
Yep. Exactly. And honestly, a lot of the work is pruning out the stuff that doesn't and saying no and having boundaries around, what it is that you do and don't want. So true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I appreciate everything that you had to share, and I know our listeners are just soaking it up. If you have one last piece of, gold, one little nugget of advice for somebody who's maybe like, starting out in their business, maybe wanting to get into real estate investing, wanting to figure out that financial freedom, the forever freedom that you're talking about, what's your number one piece of advice? Where should they start?
Oof. So anything that is exponential, and I'm stealing this from a book that I'm going to remember and I'm going to tell you later, but anything that is exponential, it looks like nothing's happening. Atomic habits. Anything that's happening looks like nothing's happening until everything happens.
Yep.
Right? That's the nature of things being exponential. So when you are on a journey that is an exponential journey, you feel crazy that nothing is happening. Right? But you complaining that nothing is happening is like an ice cube complaining that it went from negative 15 degrees to 31 degrees. Well, guess what? All of the magic happens at 32. And that ice cube would experience none of the melting, none of the magic, if it just didn't do that first step of work to go from negative 15 to 31. So understand that one little baby step, 1% every single day, 2 millimeters of change changes everything. And if you're on the path, you just need to trust it.
Love it. Love it. So powerful. Thank you for that. Thank you for leaving us with that. I love it.
Thank you, Allie. This was so fun.
Yeah, it was so fun. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, love it.